Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Robinson, first of all, I'm sure that you developed your horse skills during your tenure as the wing commander at Tigger Air Force Base. It has obviously come in handy. As I mentioned to you when you were in my office, I wanted to lay the groundwork for a question that I think is significant. Before this committee, the General David Mann had said, and this is his quote, he said that there are nearly 30 countries that possess ballistic missile capability. Together, these countries have approximately 50 different variants of ballistic missiles. Additionally, there are currently 13 new intermediate range and 8 intercontinental ballistic missiles variants under development. Now, in 2009, the administration cut the missile defense budget by $1.4 billion, delayed and then ultimately terminated. The system had been set up in both the Czech Republic and Poland for a ground-based interceptor. Terminated the multiple kill vehicle and decreased the number of ground-based interceptors from 44 to 30. Now, you testified that the MDA is really doing 4 things right now. One would be to increase the interceptors back to 44 from 30. Secondly, upgrading the ground system hardware and software. Number 3, continuing development efforts on the redesigned kill vehicle. And number 4, to deploy the long-range radar. Now, my question would be, do you think that these actions are sufficient to overcome the problems that you and I talked about and that you mentioned in your opening statement? I mean, you know, if you do these things like additional improved sensors, additional improved ground-based interceptors, what else needs to be done, or is this enough?
Well, sir, first of all, happy Quail Breakfast Day. I apologize for not being there. And I believe that the strategy that—
It's our 55th consecutive year, I might add.
Yes, sir, I know that, and it's a wonderful event. I believe the MDA strategy, as they've laid out, improving the sensors for better discrimination, improving the reliability of the kill vehicle, and then looking at the number of ground-based interceptors is exactly the strategy that we should go based on what we see today.
Well, and I appreciate that. Admiral Tidd, I think it's safe to say that the under-resourced commands would be your command in AFRICOM. That's my opinion. Do you agree with that?
I do.
If you look at some of the programs, and Senator Reid mentioned the IMET program, and I often look at these programs in the under-resourced area of AFRICOM, such as the IMET program, which is, I've always thought is great. Once you develop a relationship at that stage in the careers of individuals, you got them. And the other obvious point is, if we don't do it, China will. Secondly, the foreign military sales and foreign military financing. You know, is that something that should be expanded? So on those 2 programs, what do you think can be expanded? And are there any barriers to you from being able to expand those programs?
Senator, I think that the IMET program, as you describe, is probably one of the single most important long-term investments that we can make in establishing positive, constructive relationships based on trust with our partners. There's nothing like an officer coming or a senior enlisted coming and studying in our schools and living in the United States and experiencing for themselves all that this country represents, to be able to counteract the sometimes negative messages that they might see in the international press. And so when we have those opportunities, they are absolutely priceless. They pay off because we see time after time after time, particularly throughout our region, the senior military leaders of many of the services in the countries have trained in the United States. They've lived in our country. They know who we are. And frankly, I think our country and our culture sells itself. So I can't place enough value on a program like IMET. We could always use more. And one of the challenges is it is, like most of the resources, allocated based on a regional prioritization, and Southcom typically comes in at the bottom of that prioritization.
And what about barriers to you improving these programs?
Thus far, we have not run into any other barriers except that we run out of money.
Okay.